Now it's time to introduce our speaker, Professor Pradosh Kumar Mishra. Sir, बहुत परिचित नाम मतलब बहुत किसी introduction दवा दरकार नहीं, किंतु I am here to introduce his academic and scholarly contributions that he has made in his field. Professor Pradosh Kumar Mishra is a distinguished art historian, curator and educator with over 28 years of experience in teaching, research and academic leadership in India and abroad. He has made sustained and significant contribution to the study of modern and contemporary Indian art, visual culture and the critical documentation of traditional artistic practices. His academic specialization uniquely bridges modern and contemporary Indian art with long-term field-based research on traditional sculpture workshops in Odisha, reflecting a rare synthesis of rigorous theoretical inquiry and ethnographic engagement. Internationally, I am happy to share that Professor Mishra's scholarship was further enriched by the prestigious Fulbright Nehru Fellowship at University of Connecticut, USA, where he also served as an adjunct professor. His Fulbright research examined museums and art galleries in the United States and an educational mission, deepening his engagement with questions of pedagogy, curatorial practice, and public access to art and cultural knowledge. Beyond his scholarly work, Professor Mishra is an active curator and academic organizer committed to public art practices. He has curated several art workshops. You can visit his webpage to see the details. I am not briefing all these details. So he currently serves as a professor in the Department of History of Art, Faculty of Arts, Banaras Hind University. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join with me to welcome Professor Mishra to his talk.
A very good evening. Thank you, Dr. Raman, for this generous introduction. Honorable Chair, Professor Kamal Shilji, a member of Executive Committee of the Odia Chair, Professor Mishra, our course coordinator, Dr. Amir. It's a privilege to be here today, the day past Bahuda Jatra, and on the auspicious day of Vada Ekadasi. And this is celebrated in Puri, where I come from. And I'm here to speak about a subject that has shaped not only my academic career, but also my understanding of culture, creativity, and humanity. When I was given a chance to develop a special lecture series for the Kabi Samrat Upendra Chair, or to craft a paper exploring Odia culture in the Odia studies for the UG course, I found myself reflecting on how I could contribute in a meaningful way. As a teacher at KSUB, I believe it's important to go beyond academia, to raise awareness and inspire others to cherish the vibrant cultural heritage that shapes one of the very commonly known eastern state, Odisha. As an art historian, my passion has always been to deepen understanding of Odisha's rich cultural heritage. I am truly grateful and honored that Kabi Samrat Upendra Chair has entrusted me with this opportunity, and I am sure this presentation would make a meaningful contribution to the broader understanding of cultural heritage. So, when we begin, when we hear about handicraft, most of us commonly and immediately think about beautiful objects. We imagine colorful Patachitra paintings, delicate silver filigree, graceful stone sculptures, vibrant pipi applique. We admire them in museums, but then at exhibitions or display them at home, But I begin with a question, and a little differently. What if the real work of art is not the object? And what if the real heritage is the person who made it? And from here, we'll be beginning our journey to understand how we are reaching to the final slide and understanding how this title of the lecture, Crafting Continuity, becomes significant in a way to understand how the living cultural practices of any zone in India, because India is a country full of its regional traditions, cultures, practices, rituals, performances, etc., etc. So I'm just talking about one region which is known broadly but not in details, and this is also designed in a way to for the students those who are here. They come from Odisha, most of them, if I can imagine. But I can bet that most of them have not gone into how these crafts are understood in their own state. It is not like I'm going to clarify things, but yes, we know that this is a Sambalpuri sari, but we don't know much about the Sambalpuri sari. We know that it is a terracotta, but we don't know much about the terracotta. We know that it is a Patachitra, but we don't know what it is a Patachitra is. So it is also at the same time to educate ourselves, including me, because it's a process of learning that I have also gone through, to focus and understand how these crafts keep on reviving themselves. What are the forces that actually put them together? How they are derived, continued, respected, and a community effect is a powerhouse which keeps it continuing. So before I discuss the subject, it is very important to position oneself. So I'd like to share a little bit about this positioning. And this begins with 1987, and so long back, I think many of the students might not have been born. My mentor, Dr. Dinanath Patil, was the principal of the art college when I was doing my graduation. He took me under his wing as an intern to document crafts for the Crafts Council of Odisha. As a part of the broader effort across India, because there's a Crafts Council of India, and there was a zonal branch which was working for Crafts Council of Odisha. And this actually was helping me to understand, to survey door to door. And we found 72 crafts, which was prevalent at that point in time. Now, when I was going through the government mapping of the crafts, it has reduced to 17, which are popularly known. But there are again tens of crafts which are still surviving, but very lesser known. I'm not going to talk about all the crafts though. So that was my first interaction. The second interaction was when I was doing my graduation. My father-in-law was the teacher for the design center, which was training the students in different crafts. So that is how I could get to know how the crafts are being done, but within an institutional framework. But later when he went into the handicraft design center as a designer, he took me by his side to several places where he documented 4,000 innovative Odissi designs for the design center in Odisha, which is popularly known as Kalabhumi now. So this was my second encounter. The third was when I was doing immediately after I had done my MA, I was interested to document Kirochandra Maharana of Lalitgiri, who was doing a workshop, a stone sculpture workshop. It's a very nice tiny location in the foothill of Lalitgiri. Supapada and Lalitgiri are doing hillocks there, and we find all the remains in mostly Lalitgiri hill. At the foothill, I found that there was an artisan village which was meant to supply stone sculptures for Ratnagiri, Udayagiri and Lalitgiri. This was the center where it was made. That means all the people of that village were primarily engaged in stone carving. I documented that for 5 years, and then I continued it with a regular break because it's very difficult to make a to and fro from this place. Then I extended this study to Bhubaneswar, and I wanted to see how all the craftsmen, at least stone sculptors, were coming to Bhubaneswar and were trying to create sculpture in the pattern in which the temple sculptures were made. So this gave me another opportunity to understand there are 30 shades. Workshop is different from shades. Shades are where the artisans used to work. Workshop is a place where, like Raghunath Mahapatra's workshop, where like 50 people are working at a time. So then they outsource it to the shades. If there is much more demand, they outsource it to the shades. So that's how it used to be done. So I documented that as a UGC major project. And that documentation is also very interesting. How right from their educational qualification to their training, their learning, and then quarrying the stone to the finished product. I documented completely. It is a fantastic work. The fourth which I encountered was more fascinating. I was associated with the foundation because as Dr. Amir was explaining about the engagement with public art. So I curated 2 workshops in Birdville, and that Birdville workshop gave me an opportunity to work with the craftsmen as well as modern artists. So what we did, like we choose one craftsman and we include one contemporary modern artist to work together, and then that work belongs to both. It is nobody's property, it's a both, they're belonging. So sometimes ideas come from the contemporary artist, the execution comes from the traditional artist. So we got an opportunity to look how the Sabai grass people are working, how the cow toys people are working, how the wooden sculpture people are working. So it's like, bringing in a lot of input and enriching the current practice. So these are, which are direct encounters of what I have done within these 40 years. And that's how I thought that I should bring them to the desk so that you can know that everything that we do is not as easy. So the cultural landscape of Odisha is a lively mosaic. You can see here. And the crafts are here. It's like about 17 crafts which are outlined and where they are made in the map. Shaped by dedicated artisans whose lives and work bring it to life. Across the state, a wide variety of crafts traditions thrive. Pattachitra, stone sculpture, silver filigree, applique, okra, terracotta, palm leaf engraving, bell metal, bamboo, cane work, sabai grass, horn craft, wood carving, paper mache, cell craft, and many others. But I'm not going to talk about everything today. I've just focused on 5 to 6 crafts. And I just sort of changed the way how we are looking at the craft. I'm not going to take you in a journey where you look at the final product, but the journey of how they have been made. So therefore, calling these traditions merely handicraft or decorative arts overlook their deeper cultural significance, because we look at a product and we say that, okay, this is from Odisha, and we just stop there. Now what we are doing that, they are more than objects crafted with skill. They are heartfelt expressions of shared stories, regional identity, and communal memory. And this is very important. To have a communal memory is very important, because that is where we are losing out now. We are more into independent memories, which are again more restricted into maybe a mobile phone, if I can just say. So when we are looking at it, why should we be understanding how these were made? So each handmade piece reflects relationship between artisans, material, patron, religious institution, and local environment, that making it cherished part of our cultural heritage. So it is who is paying, who is showing, who is making, how it is made, where the knowledge comes from. So everything, it's kind of an integrated knowledge experience that they put into this whole subject. Objects are best understood through their social lives, their nurture, rather than simply as isolated crafts. This view feels especially true in Odisha, where handicrafts mean more than just their beauty. They embody relationships, traditions, and shared meanings, creating an object in a heartfelt cultural act requiring not only technical skill and bodily effort, but also patience, tradition, and ecological awareness. Look how many things they have been considering in making this particular thing. I'm not going to read out a lot of things which are here, because once I move into the pictures it will be more easier for you to understand. But just to put the things in context, it is about how we understand a conversation between hand and mind. How we understand the cultivation through patience. How we understand how repetition works. Because craft is all about repetition. So how it works, how you don't get bored when you do the repetition process. And then while you do that, you have to be very careful that you are not making mistakes. So it's an ongoing process, and this process needs a lot of contemplation, a lot of sadhana that we can say, like sitting all the time. And to put my little bit of experience today, when I was documenting Lalitgiri, I used to live in that artisan's home. So he helped me with a room in his home. He used to feed me. I used to pay something for that. That's another case. But they wake up at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock they wake up. They will go freshen up and get ready. And then they will go to the farmland. किसी के यहाँ गन्ना हुआ होगा उसको निकालना है, किसी के आलू लगा होगा उसको निकालना है. And they will take me as a driver. Right? Because this is how the learning is. It is not about how the chisel works. It is how the mind works. So while doing that, there might be a form, there might be some experience which can immediately come into their sculpture making. This is one experience. The second experience, one day I found that there was a stone which was to be carved. We were to actually proceed with the carving of this is Mishra. I don't have the image now, but I'm just telling you. So there was a 3 feet by 5 feet stone on which he was sitting and brushing his teeth. So I was like, there it is a stone till there. But then one morning I found that he came, he cleaned the stone, put a flower, and then there is no step on that. So I was curious to know why this, because till yesterday we knew that this is a stone. But then he said, now I have got proportion, the image, so I have to start today. It has to be then. This is the discipline. So it doesn't say you that you have to complete a curriculum within this stipulated time, you do it and then people get into the exam. There is no examination. There is a constant flow of teaching, learning, more learning, because teachers will continue working. I mean, the workshop master artists continue working. So you have to just follow them. How do they do? So this is how this whole heritage is not only kept in the museum. They are in the museum, but more than that, they live in the villages, in the families, in the people those who practice it, and then the people who patronize it. It is not always the king. It was the king when the temples were built, but not always the king who continue to support. Sometimes the government enterprises come, sometimes the private people come. So that also has its own fallout, but I'm not going to talk about those fallouts largely. So this particular thing informs us that learning is important. The entire focus of learning is organic. You stay, you learn, and then you excel. There is no result. So everybody do not excel in everything. Somebody will be good at doing decorative work, somebody will be good at doing facial expression, somebody will be good at doing a pedestal, somebody will be doing the ornaments. So there is an ample of opportunity for these carvers to see where they place themselves. So according to their skill, they get into that channel. So the moment they work for, say, it starts at the age of like 7, 8. They keep following their parents. And by the time they become 15, they start carving. So what I found was like there was a master artist, then there are artists, and then there are minor artists. So they keep following each other. So this is how it goes. But today, what I have selected is a bunch of crafts which I will be getting into. But more importantly, I am trying to get it from our own Rath Jatra, which is an amalgamation of communal artistic practice. And that is very interesting. So this whole practice brings together a lively community of carpenters, painters, sculptors, applique makers, blacksmiths, rope makers, textile artisans. I'll just give you a glimpse of it. I'm not going to hold on to the slides. So, and these are all this year's images. So you see how it evolves over a period of time and how many types of workers are working for this, making of this whole thing. So the creation of the grand chariots stand out as one of India's most impressive examples of collective craftsmanship, showcasing how specialized skills are passed down through hereditary communities and rooted in sacred rituals. This is interesting. Because this is a ritual, it will never die. Till the date the Rath Yatra will continue, these arts will be practiced. So the transfer of knowledge from the elders to the youngers will continue till the Rath Yatra is there. So that is the compulsion. It is not important, they are just limited to, painting or sculpture or wood carving, whatever. It is a constant process which flows from one generation to the another, and then they are trained. So these, you can see how beautifully everything comes out. I showed you the first image. So slowly, what we find is, look, we have never gone close. We have gone close to the Ratha, but we have never, thought of looking at it so closely. And this is how, the moment the image is done, it is open for worship. Okay. It is, when it is complete, now it is in front of Sri Mandir, so the worship started. Now it becomes a living being. It carries, it moves. It's about time. So, this is where we find so many kind of people are engaged. Now look at this, numbers. We have 92 Maharanas, those who are, carpenters, Sastapati. We have 81 Bhois, who are actually the servitors, working for making different things. Then we have 22 workmen, 22 Rupakaras. They are basically either sculptors or painters. And then it makes 270 people. Look at the community. They don't belong to one family, they don't belong to one practice, but belong to a collective practice of what it makes. Then I entered into Patachitra, which is very close to my village. It's like 7 kilometers. It's like, I think one person is here who is also far more closer than me. So it's one of the most cherished traditions, embodying how painting serves not just as art, but also as a sacred ritual and vessel of cultural memory closely linked to the Jagannath temple in Puri. This tradition has been kept live for generations by the dedicated Chitrakar community. Its importance goes beyond aesthetics. During the Anasara period, when the wooden idols are of Jagannath, Balabhadra and Subhadra are kept hidden from the public view, painted images become the focal point of workshops. So, you can see these are the Patachitras. Now, I am not getting into detail, but you can very well make out. Now, what we call Patachitra is not a Patachitra because there is no putty. they make it on silk, on paper. It's like become a Madhubani part 2. But putties have to be made, and these putties are made by the women folk of the village. The colors are prepared, the line is prepared, and it is prepared by the children. And once that whole thing, it's like 3-4 dhoti, cotton dhotis are put, and then it is pasted. It becomes a very hard surface, and it is smoothed with the around stone. So when we look at that, it becomes thick. You can see it, these edges. It becomes thick. So now you can see these images. I just wanted to show you something. It's a very interesting thing. I think even Kashi also has a similar kind of mapping. This is Shankar Kshetra, what we call Puri or Shankar Kshetra, is this. So you can see the conch form within which the entire city with specific temples and their placements conceptually created in this drawing, in this painting. So this particular style of work is very important because here what you find, the pigments, they are all naturally made. Naturally made, white is crafted from powdered corn shells, black from lamb shoot, red from hingula, yellow from haritara. The palette is rounded out with the colors derived from vegetable and minerals. So when we are looking at them, when you look at this is a replica of Anasarapati. Now what this Anasarapati does, when these three idols are removed, during that time, this painting is worshipped. Now think, one temple, and now we are talking about another tradition which is attached with that, therefore it has to continue. So the continuity of the craft is very much dependent on the practices, the rituals of the temple. Then I will come down to another thing which is very much social. If you look at them, they are called Ganjipa. So Ganjipa is a medieval playing cards which are made with the Savatara and other kind of small motifs of different types, and they were played in the villages. I have seen. Now this is very difficult to access one because they make it very, now it is very lessly produced, but you have them very much available. So this is also on putty. You can have some of the images in Bharat Kala. They have preserved it, they have collected it in there. Then we get into another practice, paper mashing. And paper mashing is a kind of everyday practice. And this is from the discarded materials, and they are turned into beautiful objects with artistic, cultural and theatrical importance, usually made around Puri and nearby areas. This craft has a long tradition of creating masks, toys, decorative figures, festive images and ritual accessories. In event of Sahi Jatra, which is a very popular function in Odia, in Puri, you can find that these masks are very closely used for the characters that they play. So it is not about only this. And then in Ramayana, Mahabharata, now you can see how they have been made. So it is one after the other process, and then finally it starts taking shape. So these are the masks which are created, but they are actually used in various ways, even including the Chaut dance of Mayurbhanj, Saraikala and Midnapur. That is the cultural zone. We have distributed the political map, but that is the cultural zone which actually have this. So these three crafts are actually made in Rajpur as a major center for production. But besides it, as I told you, that we have so we have then the palm leaf manuscripts. Now, very rarely you must have seen the palm leaf manuscripts, how, you must have seen it, but how it is made, which kind of leaves are used, how they are conditioned for making the work of art. Now, leaf has to mature. A mature leaf is taken, it is put into the boiling water, and then it is put under earth for 6 months. All these works are done by whom? Not by the artist. So, before the art begins, the process begins. And then you can find that they are now, after it has been brought out, then it is again polished so that the images can be made. And then you can see it is streamed now. Right? Then the extra is being cut. Then the pencil drawing begins. When there was no pencil, they had these colored chalks, the stones they used for that. Now the etching starts. No chance of correction once the line moves. So you have to be that skilled to reach here. Before that, as a learner, you have to practice everything else. Like how to draw on paper, like how to maintain the leaves, how to handle it, how to understand the texture. Because the very interesting thing is, when you look at the leaf, the grains are vertical and your figures are horizontal. If there is a small mistake, our organic part will be removed. Right? So that's how the work is done. After the etching is complete, they take this black, prepared from the lamp shoot, and put it in, and then you have this drawing. They remove. So all this black gets filled into the edge space, and then the colors are applied. So when we are looking at this, you can see that this is a process again involving the entire family or the community who is participating in making this. Then we enter into the sculpture making workshop, and I have already given you a couple of examples how they work. But my experience is and this experience actually matches someone else's, when I asked that how do you imagine an image in this stone? It's very difficult because you never know. It's not like Egypt that you have to chisel from all the sides and slowly the image will come out. Indian artist visualizes the entire image as it would be looked, as it will be seen in the final stage. Then begins the image making. And in a three-dimensional carving, it is very important that every stone chip matters. You can't have this luxury of putting everything out. You have to be very careful in what to save and what to remove. So, when you look at this, Kirot Barana told me that the image is already inside, we just release it. So, a beautiful thing. Even Michelangelo also said the same thing. The power of the image is inside the stone. We just unleash there so that the image can come out. So, but they both have not met each other, and this person has not read about Michelangelo, so there is no point. But look at the thought in the conceptual level, they belong to the same level, they understand the same thing. That we are just releasing the images which is already in this stone. And that also applies to the boots where they conceptualize and create. So they first put they don't get the stones like properly chiseled, so they chisel it first. And then they make the mota kama, what they say that the thick work, removing the stones, then they go to saru kama, the thinner works, and then go to the finishing. So there's a process in that. So in this process, everybody doesn't participate. When it will come to the saru kama, the expert has to do it. Whatever mistake the other people might have done in the beginning, if there is any, it can be controlled by the master carver. So you can see now, it is coming out, and then the shapes take shape. The forms come out. So this is, when we buy, we go and bargain. This, you just take this one, but you don't understand how much of the effort, because these are not machine made. Well, now all the temples are machine made because the lasers are working and computer, it's a kind of computer to the workshop command, and you just give it, and you have all the stones cut and they are coming out. But they look so bizarre. They don't have that feel of the hand. Look at the temples. Why all these temples in India are so beautiful? It's just because it is made by man. Because there is a difference, because there is an organic difference between the image making, because the faces are different. Think, if all of us look alike, how it would be? That is what the laser is doing. So, we have simplified it, obviously, but it is not giving us that kind of a feel which one can. Like this, the way we said Smita Hasya. There's a Hasya and Smita Hasya. So, both are different. If you chisel a little more and the lips are open, then it becomes Hasya. So, how delicately these people think about stone carving, and this is how the final producers are here. Then there are material challenges. Sometimes you get iron deposits in the stones, so it removes. Sometimes you get sand deposits in the stones because this is chondrolite. And all these are also challenges. Suppose you are doing something and suddenly there is a iron base comes up. It will not allow you to take the straight line. So you have to again, customize your idea according to what kind of a stone you are acquiring and how it would behave. Now, it takes me to my earlier days when I was documenting Gogakur in Khordha. That is the hillock from where all the stones are brought to Jagannath temple for belief. Right? You go by the writing of Gayacharan Tripathi ji, or you go by the writings of Alice Bonner, you go by the writings of all these authors. They have mapped how this stone was transferred. Alice Bonner writes in the Vayachakrata, the account book of making the Sun Temple of Konark. She mentions that while the stone was being transported from Parikuda, the people of Parikuda actually stopped the stone to be transported. So the king permitted them, and what was the demand? To construct a temple, small temple for their village. So immediately the king said, okay, we will construct the temple. The moment the temple construction was complete, all those people who created, they came to Puri for the workshop. So now you can understand what kind of a patronage and give and take was taking place. So, and very interestingly, it is not about the skill. You also have to have knowledge. Which deity will have what kind of an iconography? Because then you have to identify, this is Brahma, this is Surya, this is Vishnu, this is Shiva. So how would you identify? Ayodhas. Now these ayodhas are already defined in Shiva Prakasha. So you have to understand how these iconographic renderings are done so that the image can take shape. Just in a passing by, if an image breaks during the carving, it cannot be worshipped. The damaged images are never worshipped. So it can be something else, it can be a decorative thing, but it cannot be practiced. Right? So all this relationship, all this making and the ritual, the involvement, the kind of give and take which is involved in making these images, make it far more important. Now, a lot of people like you and I, we go and say, हमको थोड़ा सा पतला वाला आंखें चाहिए, हमको थोड़ा सा इसके लिए बहुत बड़ा कर दीजिए, इसके कान में कुंडल और दे दीजिए. So we try to exploit those extras, and by doing that, we actually kill those canonic depiction of images. But this canonic depiction is tradition. Therefore, I asked the artist, how do you manage? He said, this is this and this is this. I'll give you another example and move on. There was a Varaha image which was ordered to the Lalitgiri workshop, and in that they were made that we have a small budget, you make it in chondrolite. But the order from the office was passed for granite. So how to convert the chondrolite to granite? It's very simple. They said that you just get black color, you carve it and then put the black color. So they simplified. But then I said, does it not affect your reputation? Said once we sell it, it is not ours. But at the same time, there was a temple built at Kadampa, which was about 20 kilometers away from Lalitgiri. It was a collective sponsorship, like patronage from the community, and the sculptors were worshipped like Vishwakarma. That is where the difference is. After the completion of the temple, all these craftsmen were called, they are given whatever due they had, but the chief, the master artist, was honored with a pair of dhoti, whatever remuneration or honorarium he must have received, but for that day he was the VIP of that village. He was kept in a separate room, he was worshipped, because he was the person who gave birth to all these three gods. So, you know, what kind of a sentimental, personal relation developed with these people. Then we get into wood carving, which is again, Jagannath, Balabhadra, Subhadra are wood carvings. These 15 days which they, after taking bath, they are taken into the, out of the people's eyes, is because they are being painted. This is wooden. So if you put 108 grams of water on that, it's a wood. So it will certainly have some impact. So they take it inside, condition it, repaint and bring it out for the Rath Yatra. How interesting. How can this tradition stop if it is attached to a religious practice, if it is attached to a people's imagination? So when you look at them, there are actually different kinds of wood that we use. Gambhari basically are used for, it's a light, but it's very useful. You can make very intricate carvings on that. So, very handy. But then we have bigger images. These are smaller images which you can see here. So all these, why this is happening? Do you think that like our teacher comes and teaches and like I'm speaking and you're just listening, then we all take our ways and go back? It is not like that. While working for the entire day, the work starts around 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, depending on their routine. And they have to work for the day, they have no other business to do. What do? They do many things. They speak about their own experiences, while there is a mistake, or their experiences while they want to improvise or customize things. There's a lot of conversation goes on. This conversation is not limited to the material alone. It is about their personal exchanges, which reflect in their image making. So when we are looking at those hands which make them, it becomes very important. If you are just looking at the image as a last product, you are not interested, just like any other product which is available on Amazon or anywhere else. So now you see, after the finishing, even if it is a Patachitra or a soapstone or wooden, you will find that the final polish will be by the lacquer polish. Right? So the lacquer polish actually saves them from weathering, from different ecological conditions. So you can see there are many kinds of objects which are made from that. Then we enter into another which we started with, the acrylic. It is in PPD. So when I was a student in Punjab University, Chandigarh, the stop, Professor Kamal Singh might be knowing, there was always a very regular bus stop where the bus goes and stays for some time. The place is Kurukshetra, but they call it Pipli. It is not PPD, Pipli. And to my shock, I found that they have put all our applique works surrounding the shops and saying that it is Pipli Chambar. So I went to the person in charge, I said, it is not yours. Tell me where it is made. It is not yours. So somebody has to speak out, and then maybe a year after I found everything has been removed. I mean, that's fine, but you can see now this is also something where number of human experience is used. Cutting, sewing, making these chains, right? the last slide, I will tell you where it has changed now. These are laces which are now used, the commercial lace which is used now. But earlier when there was no lace, you find these are also the same thing. This is the market completely. Look at this. So they are all hand work. They're made by hand. Even the chains were made by hand. Because I've seen this handicraft training center as well as design center, they're hand stitched. Now the hand stitch is completely gone. They're replaced by the lace. But you look at the colors. The colors that is only used in Jagannath temple will be found here. The black, green, red, yellow, white, primary colors that mostly we say, the bright colors which are used in the temple. Then, am I taking long? I will not give any 30 minutes now. So then we entered into another area which is again very important and very interesting, which we call terracotta. Terracotta everywhere in India, right from the Indus Valley civilization we find. But every region has its own significance. And every region has its own type of clay. All the clays in India are not the same. Ganga clay is different from Mahanadi clay. Now this is the kiln in which they do it, and so it is very easy to make at home. There is no very difficulty. I was working with one of my mentors, Sri Devraj Sahu, who was a teacher, and he was training young children in CCR. So I was living at the back of it in Lalitpala guest house, and one good morning I found him working, taking the soil out. I said, "What are you doing?" Today I have to fire some terracottas, no? So just dig like 2 feet, put them in, put some, what they call straw, and then cover it with, and just control the temperature naturally. And how do you do that? When you look at the flame and you look at the, the whole, this thing, the temperature, they can imagine that now it is okay to bake flame. So these are natural instincts. You don't have to measure, like now we have got kilns which are very highly sophisticated and they can define everything. So now you see, if you know Sonpur, these are the sculptures from there. Even my village also had Gram Devata, Devi. So we also had these horses placed at several places. So this is from the Kalapuri Museum. Look at the range of sculptures that we have. I have these sculptures at my home also. So these are the terracottas which are baked and created. This is the best example to show how the potters work. Everybody cannot make this. Even an expert potter cannot make this if he doesn't know the technique. The mixture of the soil and the rest of the materials which are used for making them. Then quickly I get into another kind of work which is called dhokra, and this is done in Sadai Barini in Dhekana. Look, Odisha is, I'm not talking about Sambalpuri today, but Sadai Barini. So when you look at this craft, where each piece is thoroughly handmade and making it impossible to produce as exact duplicate. You cannot do it. A few days back there was a lot of noise about the dancing girl in bronze. This is the same process which it follows, the lost wax process. So the lost wax process is very important because you can see this is actually wax which you see here, and this clay, lump of clay is actually mixed with a lot of things, little bit of cow dung, little bit of husk, a little bit of sand, so that it becomes lighter. And I'll take, now when you follow these images, you will understand why it should be lighter. So you see these forms, right? And then this kind of forms. So now what happens? This bee wax which is cooked and it turns black, you make threads and you make a thread design on those solid balls, right? And then you make a mold like this, putting it in, so that there will be a runner, you can put the metal and the rest of things will go out. This is the kiln, how it is fired, right? And then, once the firing is done, the molds are taken out and the image is out. Look at this image. And this is the mold. Very small, tiny things. Even you can make, if you have the facility, you can make bigger things. But this is something which is used for the village rituals. So we have totemic images, we have village rituals. So these images are actually used there as village rituals, and they cannot be duplicated because it is all handmade. You cannot say that there will be 10 rounds of threads or 12 rounds of threads. You cannot fix it. It depends on, because they will be talking to each other and doing that, right? And once that is done, the clay that you saw, it becomes like koila. And what they do with a very sharp needle, they push and take it out. And these are the final produce that you can see from these images. So this is So what we are looking at is, together these various traditions of Odisha's handmade crafts are more than just isolated art forms or relics from the past. Whether artisans are shaping beeswax for dhokla casting, carving seasoned wood, or engraving palm leaves, they are involved in highly specialized processes. These crafts seamlessly blend technical skill with cultural stories, reflecting the heart and soul of Odisha's rich heritage. Each craft has crafted its own language of materials, tools, bodily movements, and workshop routines. Yet at their heart, they all recognize that creating is a social journey. Knowledge is shared through apprenticeship, nurtured through experience, and revived through continuous practice. Materials are valued for their natural qualities, not just as a resource to be used. Innovation emerges from conversation with tradition. So every time the artists continue to do that, there will certainly come up a time when you start innovating naturally. Then, like I told you, that the engagement of communities, no craft is devoid of the communities. Each one that I showed you has people from all the age groups, from all the gender who participate to make them. And besides working with these people, the female of the house also has to cook for the entire team of the people who are working. And that is an additional work that she does. But then during cooking, these people also try to make the black from lamb shoot. Also create colors, because when they are free, they will create the powder from the natural objects or the stones. So when we look at this whole practice, many craft communities in Odisha were organized during the hereditary trades. Whether it is painting, sculpture, dhokra, or terracotta, chandua, whatever I told, they are all a collective work. If it stops, the life stops. And therefore it continues, because the life continues. And they have something to contribute. So, as Kapila Vatsa had noted, that Indian craft traditions persist because they possess an innate ability to renew themselves while staying anchored to their foundational knowledge. So the knowledge is not distorted. Even if it travels like 4 generations, 5 generations, this traditional knowledge is not distorted. It is never compromised. Now, if you are free, like Nihal Ranjan says about Kula Shila, Kula is where you learn the exact thing which your father has learned or has taught you, or your previous generation has taught you. Shila is something that you take notice from the society. You include that. So, for X, Kula is something. For Y, Kula and Shila makes again a Kula for the next generation. So when you look at this kind of a combination and tradition, it becomes far more interesting. And again, Kumar Swami also speaks about the same thing. So because it is a community practice, it has a strength, it has a feeling, it will never die. Because it is everybody's contribution. It is not independent of this independent or personal works. As an intangible cultural heritage, because when we talk about the objects, we talk about tangible. But what I am talking about is experience, transfer of knowledge, and how we work in a community. These are practices which are intangible. So how to understand the intangible from the tangible produce, from the product that we see. That is very important. And therefore, UNESCO in its 2003 convention highlights that knowledge, skill, oral stories and social customs only endure the communities actively that practice and pass them down. Because it is very important that when it is passed down, it has to be valued. So if the value reduces, then the works also will deteriorate. But we still find the same quality of works continuing. Then we have the crafting continuity. Because this is very interesting that all these people have been transferring their knowledge. Therefore, these crafts are not going to die or be obsolete, but they will survive, sustain and improvise over a period of time. So, when I was doing this for last 4 decades, working through these workshops, I believe this even more strongly today. The real masterpiece is the human capacity to transform experience into knowledge, knowledge into skill, skill into beauty, and the beauty into culture. Every time an artisan picks up a chisel, stretches a thread, shapes a lump of clay, twists a strand of silver, or prepares a natural pigment, that process begins again. They are living conversations among people, material, memory, and imagination. They remind us that culture is not inherited once and for all. It is made every single day. Thus, the answer to the question I started with narrows down to the real heritage is the person who made it. Thank you. That was not a question, of course. So, any questions, any inquiry, anything? Did it interest you at all? Did you learn something new or something more? Something deeper which you knew earlier? That is very, very important. If you are taking away 4 words even, that is the success of this lecture. Repeating those words are not important. Understanding a little bit more about Odisha is important. That is why these lectures are made. So any questions if you have, I will be happy to reply. Or if you have, you can always write to me, I will reply. But it will be good if other people can also learn from me. Any questions?
I was just wondering.
Sure, please.
What has the Odisha government done to protect these communities, these craft communities? Is there a center, training center, which if some young person wants to learn it, is there a center here in Odisha?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. See, Odisha has a state Odisha Handicrafts Council, corporation. Utkalika comes from there. Utkalika produces objects for mass sale, right? So, through those, they have nurtured these workshops in many places, but not all. That is one. But I am proud to tell you that Kalabhumi is the second best museum and the best preserved museum in India for any handicrafts now. The first one was the Crafts Museum in Delhi, which was in the gate number 1 Pragati Maidan. And again, Jyotindra Jain has designed this Kalabhumi for Odisha, which is a unique, one must visit if you are in Bhubaneswar. Go to Kalabhumi in Kandamunda and you'll find a different experience. They have a fantastic cafe. All the galleries are air conditioned. All the objects are methodically prepared and presented. And also you have a digital assistance. If you want to know what kind of a sound comes out of that, you can also touch and figure it out. And finally, you will find the artisans are working right there in the gallery. And this same practice was done in Crafts Museum in Delhi.
When was this set up?
It was set up about like 5 years back.
So, okay.
That's very recently. So there are two museums one must not miss in Bhubaneswar. One is the Tribal Museum at CRPF Square, and the second one is the Kalabhumi in Kandamunda. One must not, even if people those are from outside, whenever you go to Bhubaneswar, never miss these two places. And also the what is that Lingara's temple, Pushkarani? Bindusagar. On the right side of Bindusagar, there is a herbal garden. You must visit. And this herbal garden is designed on the concept of Puranas. You must visit that. It is designed by Nimranas, the best hotel keepers of the modern heritage sites. So there are many things to see. You should not miss. And if you are on a Sunday there, go for a Bhubaneswar walk. There are two groups go in and check. This is more useful for the people at the back. Because you have been reading a lot, you have explored a little. You need to explore a lot, reading will come automatically. Any more question? No.
Sir, I have a question.
No, sir.
Professor Mishra, let me express my appreciations for such kind of analytical talk on Odisha and continuing crafting continues. You said there is an involvement of community, gender, all sector, people from all dimensions are coming and contributing for this living culture. Digitalization has an impact in almost all dimensions of our life. So how digitalization or communication technology has an impact on this tradition with respect to economy, employment, any reviews, any case you can cite?
Okay. Thank you, Professor Gowda. It's a very interesting question because it is always a challenge. You have to balance between both the sides of the society. The first thing is that, as I said a little earlier, that handmade things cannot be replaced. But digitization has changed a lot of monetizing, of making financial benefits, of creating clusters, of mass reproduction of objects. But all these are happening not with this traditional craftsman because they don't work. It has mainly taken over by the middle person. Because you don't need anything. Now I'll tell you how. You need some sculpture, for example. Right? Now 3D designs have also come in. So you need a sculpture of paper powder. You just have to give a command. Select your own design and give a command, computer to production. So C2P and you find the product is out. So you don't have to do anything. But then that is not a handicraft anymore. Let us believe in that also. It might be look alike, like a Tasar painting is called Patachitra. It may look alike, but it will not be Patachitra. And now that all these objects are being made, you cannot replicate a Gobar Kondi in 3D design because Gobar is not allowed in that machine. Okay? So now that whole thing that you have to understand, that is the beauty of handmade. That is the beauty, that is the feel of texture, and your belonging to that place. We all, suppose I reproduce 100 flower garlands, would you like them? You know, that is what I was questioning when I started. If we all look alike, what will happen? So, machine will come, AI will come, they will intervene the market system, they will mass produce, but they will no more be handicrafts, they will be look-alike handicrafts. So I mean, it is happening. Temples are being built. So entire Ram Mandir was built on computers. Mostly, I mean, about 80% of the stone work that you see, they are all on computers. Okay, and then Akshardham, 60% of the sculptures are computer rated. So AI is working, the digital works are working, and nobody is against it. You want to produce a temple in 10 days, do that. But you can do it, you can make a temple, but you cannot stop the stone from falling. Because that is the technique. In temples, they used to make the hinges to capture each other. All these big temples you find, there was no concrete. Now we are using concrete to fix the stones. So there is a life, there is some truth, there will be some fallout. So we have to understand that. But that's also welcome. Thank you. Sir.
Thank you for the enlightening lecture. Really nice. I am not a student of arts, history of arts. Still, I have enjoyed the workshop. You said crafting continued. Will it continue in future?
Obviously.
No, you see, if you see the data, I can't give the exact statistics of that. The workers who are involved in this handicraft, gradually they are going on decreasing day by day due to urbanization, labor problem, marketing problem. So, will it continue, or the day will come that it will become standstill? So, I am in doubt.
Okay.
How
So,
this will continue? Whether it will continue or there will be full stop?
okay, I'll take the cue from Bhanja sir, and then I'll help you understand this. There was a time when we didn't have anything else but to depend on the government to sell our works, right? But now what has happened? All these young people, those who are engaged in handicraft making, they all have Insta, they all have Twitter, they all are acquainted with the new social networking devices. They tell you they're selling more than before, and they're selling more than before, and they're selling in higher prices to the international clients which were not there in Odisha, right? It was very meager if you look at that statistics earlier, but now they have started to how this digitization will help. This is a help to the digitization, right? So that is number one. Number two is that handicrafts will never stop, and that is the reason why I started crafting continuity. Crafting continuity is not about the crafts, it is about
A beautiful thing you have said, I'm sorry to interrupt, that there is an amalgamation of tradition and religion.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
So that is why it will not die. That is why it will never die. Because they will not allow you to do, customized things, so the tradition will remain intact.
That is why.
And there's the
as long as religion will
exactly.
this tradition.
So this will also continue. This will not stop. There will be minor changes, some innovations here and there. I tell you the market, you little suspicious about the market, but the market is going good. Now anybody in Bangalore can order a sculpture of 2 to 3 feet directly on Insta, and they're getting it. About 40% of what I know, handicraft people have now using that platform for sale and expansion. So it will never die, sir.
Will continue.
Yes, it's 100%.
Thank you.
I am convinced about it. Thank you everybody for listening to this.
Thank you so much for this mesmerizing talk.